The organizer, should we start?
Just give us 1 or 2 minutes. We are just streaming, starting the streaming.
Okay, okay.
Okay, we are live now.
Okay, okay. So all the speakers and respected guests, should we start our webinar?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay. Yes. So welcome to the webinar titled Innovations in Clean Cooking. It is organized by the International Solar Innovation Council, InSIC. This webinar has been jointly hosted by NB Institute for Rural Technology, NBIRT, and Friends of Environment. I am Richik Ghosh Thakur, and I'll be moderating this webinar. So about, as far as I can see, 50 participants have joined us through our platform, YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Now, I think without much further ado, we'll start the program with the welcome address by Ms. Elina Mahonen. So Elina is one of the founding members of InSIC and has been a board member since 2017. She's the chief editor of the newsletter Solar Innovator and also an environmental specialist by profession. I requested to deliver the welcome address for this webinar. Over to you, Elina.
Thank you, Richik. Hi, everyone. Greetings from snowy Finland. My name is Elina Mahonen, and like Richik already told, I'm a board member of InSIC and also one of the founding members of InSIC. So I've been happy to work with our team since the beginning. The purpose of this webinar today is to discuss different aspects of clean cooking and its effects on physical health and environment in developing countries. We have very interesting presentations today, and already at this point, I want to thank all our guest speakers. Now, on behalf of InSIC board, I would like to warmly welcome you all to this webinar today. We are very glad to see so many of you online. We have a lot of participants from India, so shortly in Hindi. मैं आप सबको इस वेबिनार में स्वागत करती हूँ. मुझे खुशी है कि आप सब लोग इस वेबिनार में शामिल हुए हैं. Thank you very much, and I hope you will all enjoy the webinar.
Thank you so much, Elina. That was a very nice welcome address. And now I would request for the introductory speech, Professor S.P. Gonchaudhary sir. He's a very renowned person. He's an international expert in the field of renewable energy. He served the government of India as well as several state governments for the promotion of renewable energy. He did pioneering work in the field of solar photovoltaics, as every one of us know. His work in renewable energy received worldwide recognition. He received several awards from national and international bodies due to his immense contribution in this field. He is the founding chairman of the International Solar Innovation Council. So I now request him to kindly deliver the introductory speech for this webinar. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Richik, for a nice introduction. Thank you, Elina, for a very nice welcome address. And I liked it very much that you speak so much good Hindi. And I don't speak like that. You are really good in Hindi. So thank you very much, Elina, for a nice welcome address. So today's our webinar is very important. I think clean cooking is a very important topic in the context of India, not only India, but any other developing countries, particularly the African countries, the Bangladesh, the SAARC countries, all these developing countries, they do depend on pollution making cooking systems. Still now, billions of people, they depend on that. So in that context, definitely today's webinar will highlight the problems. I think Priya and Sajidas, Ajay Chandak, they are all here. So they are all expert in cooking devices and in the various field of renewable energy. So I'm sure they will touch upon all technical issues and the problems and other things. But what I find in India, our Prime Minister has launched a major program on LPG to rural areas. It was a very big program. It was launched in India, and we were very happy to note that type of program for clean cooking, particularly in the rural kitchen. But unfortunately, you see, due to high cost, at the time when it was launched, the program, at that time, the LPG was very cheap, not very cheap, but it was cheap in India. But later on, the LPG price has gone up. And we have noted, and when I attend various government meetings also, we are reported by many officers that the LPG who has taken the LPG, they are not using that. They have gone back to the again that firewood-based cook stove. So this is mainly due to high cost of LPG, and they are keeping the LPG to use maybe one cylinder in 6-7 months they consume, and balance time they use the firewood, and which is a very highly indoor pollution making device. We know that. Now this indoor pollution and emission level, India is committed in Glasgow, in Egypt. India is committed to reduce its emission by the year 2030 and net zero by 2070. So from all fronts, we are to take up a lot of renewable energy activities, including in the cooking sector, transport sector, power generation sector. Everywhere we are trying to do something. So in India also, various clean cooking devices are now available in the rural market. This includes induction cookers, high efficient biomass cook stove, solar cooking device, or biogas cooking system. All these systems are now available. Now I know a little bit about the status, but I'm sure the other important people are there who will be speaking on that. I'm not going to that because it will be discussed elaborately by other experts. But I'm happy that a lot of people have registered and a number of people have joined in this webinar. And from this initiative, if some programs, I must mention that InSIC supports small grants for various types of clean cooking system. So in future, the experts are here. If they want to participate in this grant program, they can also keep in touch with InSIC, and they can take the program. Ajay Chandak has implemented one good program of InSIC on solar cooking system. So I think this is very important area where InSIC is also very much interested, and the significant number of participants are there, and I would tell them that they can contact InSIC for any informations, in this sector, particularly the manufacturer. We have a very nice database of manufacturer of solar cooking device, biomass cooking device, and also the biogas based cooking devices. So all these informations are available with us. So if anybody they are interested, they can contact. I'm sure this webinar will be very effective and useful for all of us. I look forward to listen from the experts, and I'm sure the webinar will be very interactive, and many people are waiting to ask questions, and our experts will reply to these questions. So thank you very much, Richik, and thank you, the organizer, for giving me opportunity to speak something as an introductory lecture, and I'll rather listen now to the experts. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your introductory speech. And as sir said that InSIC organizes this call for small grants, which you can visit the audience members can visit InSIC's website. I would like the organizers also to share the website of InSIC in the chat box. So there we put up call for proposals for small grants, and we do this every year. So thank you, sir. And currently, I think we have 53 participants here and about 52 in YouTube Live. So 105 participants and audience members are currently watching this webinar. So now we have the keynote address from Dr. Priyadarshini Karve. She will be speaking on climate-ready cooking energy system. So Dr. Karve completed her PhD in physics from University of Pune in 1998. So in a career spanning nearly 25 years, she invented a number of improved biomass burning cooking devices to reduce smoke in the kitchen and dependence on firewood for domestic cooking in rural areas. She has also worked on decentralized organic waste to fuel technologies. In the past 10 years or so, her work has focused on devising and promoting strategies for low carbon sustainable urbanization. She invented an easy to use Samuchit carbon footprint calculator for urban Indians, and she conducts workshops on climate friendly lifestyle, sustainable urbanization, etc. Dr. Karve is the founder and director of Samuchit Envirotech, which is a social enterprise that promotes environmentally sustainable energy and lifestyle products. She is also a co-founder of Urja Box LLP, a green startup focused on renewable energy for cooking. She serves on the governing and advisory bodies of a number of national and international organizations. She is currently the national convener of the Indian Network on Ethics and Climate Change, INECC. She is associated as a visiting faculty with several educational institutions and is the co-editor of Shaikshanik Sandarbh, a Marathi e-periodical on science and education. Her work has been honored by several national and international awards. So over to you, ma'am. I have been very fortunate enough to work with you even for a brief period of time back in 2018. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my views with all of you. Can we have the presentation, please?
Yes, I'll ask the organizers. Organizers, can you put up ma'am's presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So here I'm going to talk about primarily from my own experience in India and also the learnings I have from being part of an international group called Cleaner Cooking Coalition. And we deliberately use the word cleaner rather than clean, and I'll explain that towards the end of my talk. This is sort of based on the India experience, but with a perspective of all the developing countries.
Okay, that's great. So
is it
presentation?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to the next slide. In 1990s, when I started working in this field, this is what everyone used to say, that everybody will be cooking on gas by 2015. Now everyone is saying that everyone is going to cook on electricity by 2030. So at any point in time, the kind of fields that I have worked in, which is primarily biomass based cooking, the impression that is always given is that this is a temporary phase. You are developing devices which are just going to help people transition from whatever traditional devices they are using towards these so-called modern cooking energy systems. But let's look at some data, and let's take a slightly different perspective on what the reality is. Next slide, please. So if you look at the data coming from international agencies, there are about 770 million people without access to electricity that are still left. there are 2.6 billion people who do not have access to what is called as modern cooking. Modern cooking means LPG, electricity, PNG, pipe natural gas, and so on. So look at this data carefully. What this is telling you is that there are 1.8 billion people who have access to electricity, but they are not using electricity for cooking. They continue to use polluting technologies. And the same agency also points out that use of these polluting technologies in Asia and Africa will continue to increase till 2050. So we have to realize that this is a sector which will remain open for innovative ideas for a long time to come. What is meant by polluting technologies is primarily solid biomass fuels, traditional cook stoves, and kerosene-based stoves. If you look at data from India, Dr. Gaun Chaudhary mentioned about this. Next slide, please. In India, we have had a massive LPG program. And this is relatively current data, which shows that 95% urban households and 71% rural households have LPG connections. But when it comes to use, a slightly different picture emerges. Only 28% rural households are exclusively cooking with LPG. There are 39% households in rural India where solid biomass cook stoves are either the primary cook stove or the only cook stove in the kitchen. And we also have nearly 100% electrification, but electricity as yet doesn't really figure much as a cooking energy source. We do use electricity in urban kitchens for a variety of cooking related processes, but not so much for cooking. So this is the India context of this entire issue here. Now, if you think about this, next slide, please. Nobody is actually going hungry because they don't have cooking energy, right? Everybody agrees with that. Next slide. So nobody is going hungry because there is no access to cooking energy, right? So everybody is actually able to cook. So what does it mean when you say that people have access to cooking energy, or that there is this implicit understanding that energy service is being availed without harming the health of the user? Then only you claim that there is an energy access. Otherwise, it will be considered as a deficiency in energy access. So the focus is on ensuring that energy service is delivered and the health is also taken care of. Next slide. What if, given the current situation of climate change and so on, we expand this definition and say that we will call it energy access if the energy service is availed without harming the health of the user and without harming the environment. So if we add this in, now keep this definition in the mind, and let's take stock of what is actually going on in people's kitchens. Next slide. There is a spectrum of cooking energy devices, and at one end of the spectrum, you have the basic traditional cook stove, which is using either wood or agricultural waste or any type of solid biomass fuel. Now, there is plenty of data available, no doubt. Nobody argues against this statement that there are serious health impacts of this type of cooking energy system. As far as climate change impacts are concerned, one has to look at the context, because if somebody is using a relatively cleaner cooking energy device and agricultural waste or sustainably harvested biomass, then one can be closer to carbon neutrality. However, if the fuel is not being used properly, there will be methane emission, black carbon emission, and so on. So there is a greenhouse gas emissions are also happening. There is a climate impact and there is a health impact. Next slide. At the other end of the spectrum, you have this modern urban kitchen, which is using all fossil fuels. Even the electricity is currently being produced by using fossil fuels. So there is undoubtedly a climate change impact. So far, our understanding was that there are no health impacts as far as using LPG and piped natural gas, etc., are concerned. Next slide. Recently, data has started appearing, papers have started appearing that even cooking gas is producing pollutants. So there can be adverse health impacts associated with use of cooking gas. There is also another dimension to this, and this is the dimension of the overall climate politics. Now, the fossil fuel industry, while trying to survive, is saying that let us shift to the least polluting fossil fuel and use that everywhere, while we make this transition to renewables and other hydrogen and whatever. So there is a big shift happening from coal and petroleum to natural gas in various sectors. So already, as far as natural gas is concerned, much more variety of demand is coming on that. Now, LPG is a byproduct of petroleum refining. So in the hypothetical situation where liquid petroleum fuels start being phased out, where is the LPG going to come from? So these issues I don't hear anybody talking about, that where is the gas for cooking going to come from? Because we have seen this time and again in a variety of contexts that any resource will be sold to the person or that organization which is willing to pay a higher price for it. Cooking is conventionally considered to be an unproductive activity, in the sense that you are cooking but you are not earning any money out of it. So there is always going to be this expectation that cooking fuel will be made available at a price that is affordable to the users, etc., etc. So the tendency to shift these fuels to other sectors is going to be naturally there. So this also has to be kept in mind as far as these energy sources are concerned. So the point I'm trying to make here is, next slide, is that if you think about it, this is in general the spectrum of sources that are used for broadly meeting thermal energy needs at the household level. This is what we call stove stacking. People are using multiple technologies. And although we say cook stoves, but one has to look at all the thermal energy needs, because in a rural household, for example, the cook stove will also be used for heating water for bathing. In the cold climatic conditions, it will also be a space heater and so on. So if you look at thermal energy needs, how those are being satisfied, then in rural areas, it is primarily wood, biomass. LPG, kerosene, wherever it is, kerosene is available still. That has made some inroads. Rural rich have shifted to LPG. If they have animals, primarily they are using biogas. Wood and biomass still continue to be there even in their kitchens. And in some pockets, electricity has started making inroads. Urban poor have shifted to LPG, kerosene wherever it is available. Wood is still being used. And even more dangerously, anything that burns is particularly used for heating water for baths. So we have seen plastics being burned, tires being burned, which is even more dangerous than burning wood. In urban rich households, we have shifted to LPG or PNG wherever it is available. We are using electricity, and for water heating we have started extensively using solar energy. So this is the overall spectrum. But if you drop out the solar energy for water heating, everything else is problematic, either for health or for climate or for both. So with this, if we go back to the definition that I mentioned earlier, next slide, that if we want energy access to mean that it is good for, next slide, it is good for people and it should be good for the planet. Can we have the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So access to cooking energy then, if it has to be safe for people as well as planet, there is no access. Nobody has access. There is 0% access, because in rural areas, the health is going down the drain. In urban areas, in our kitchens, climate is going for a toss. So the point I want to drive home is that don't think of cooking energy as a problem only of rural households. There is unfinished business as far as urban kitchens is concerned also. We have to look at the entire spectrum and change the entire cooking energy sector. That is where we are at. If we start thinking from that point of view, then I think some new innovations will come out if you open out and broaden your horizons. Next slide. So the question then arises is that are there any cooking energy devices which actually meet these criteria on which we can build to create a newer and better energy system? Next slide. And we have to also keep in mind that it is not just about cooking, but all thermal energy needs of the users need to be satisfied. So I'm going to, on next slide, please. I'm going to just share some representative examples from our own work and some of our associates' work. The basic modification one can do in a traditional cook stove, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this, a two-pot stove with a chimney. This pillar that you see behind hides a chimney inside. So this improves the efficiency of a traditional cook stove considerably and takes the emissions out. One can also have portable insulated cook stoves, as you can see a representative example here. At Samuchit Envirotech, we also worked on a couple of other strategies. We have developed a natural draft gasifier cook stove where you can burn coconut shells, bamboo waste, woody biomass, and so on. You cook using the burning wood gas, and charcoal is left behind as a byproduct. So charcoal is another fuel then that becomes available. And since it has been obtained in the process of cooking, it is renewable charcoal in that sense. We also developed separately a kiln for converting agricultural, forestry, garden waste into this renewable charcoal. And then we came up with a steam cooker using which about 100 grams of charcoal is enough to cook dal, rice, vegetable for about 4 to 5 people. So this is the approach where you standardize a fuel and then design a device for that standardized fuel. Mostly people have followed the route of pelleting and briquetting and then developing a stove for burning those. We have taken a slightly different path where we are converting waste biomass into charcoal and then using the charcoal for cooking. There are wide variety of solar cookers that are now available. The box type cooker had its own issues around user friendliness, the time for cooking, etc. But now even better, more user friendly, faster technologies are available. The biogas system is no longer just about using animal dung or human excreta. You can use food waste for making biogas, and that suddenly makes biogas a potentially urban cooking energy system, because dealing with organic waste, food waste is a typically urban issue. So the system that you see in this photograph here has a digester and a gas holder, which is a balloon, which you can keep near the kitchen. The digester can be placed slightly away. So that kind of a flexibility is now available. So there are these variety of sort of seeds that are already there, and one can build on these to develop systems which will be actually serving the needs of the people. Next slide. We also realized over the years that it is wrong to have, say, 3 models of cooking energy technologies and then try to sell those to everybody. We did this analysis and realized that there are 18 different parameters related with a cooking energy service that people may look for, the users may look for. And when I say users, it is mainly, of course, the cooks who are women, but we also take into account the opinion of men of the household, since they are going to shell out the money for these devices. you can see that efficiency and emissions are part of these 18, but they are just two things. In the lab, a stove is designed by improving its efficiency and reducing its emissions. And then it is assumed that if you are meeting certain standards, that device will be able to cook anything and everything, which is a totally wrong assumption, which is what we found over the years. So we developed this process by which when typically an organization or a donor invites us to work in a particular community, we understand their traditional cooking practices. We understand what are the various things for which the cook stoves are being used. We have developed a gamified process by which we identify which of these 18 parameters are critically important for that community. So for example, if it is a roti eating community, then being able to roast rotis is very, very critically important for them. If it is a rice eating community, then the stove which is good at boiling is good for them. So that's just one example. So we generally find that there are 3 or 4 parameters on which people are not going to compromise. Those parameters have to be there, then only that stove will be used. So based on that, then we look at what is available in the market, and we do it in a technology neutral way. So we consider solid biomass stores, we consider biogas systems, we consider solar systems, we also consider LPG and electricity. And we figure out 2 or 3 designs which meet people's needs and introduce those in that community as test stores. And then on the basis of the feedback from the test users, 1 or 2 models will be selected for disseminating in that community. As far as possible, we also try to create small enterprises within the community, which can then continue to provide after-sales service and additional support to the users. So by doing this, we are ensuring that the solution that we introduce actually gets used. Otherwise, in this sector, there are many programs which are donor driven. Some random stove which the donor liked has been picked up and distributed to people, and those stores are just lying unused. We have avoided that by following this particular process. So these are the ways in which we got even additional insights as to what people desire from a cooking energy system. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, thanks. Another important thing is we are not insisting that we should have this all-in-one cook stove, one device which we give to people and that will solve all their problems. People are currently using multiple cooking energy devices. Let them continue to use multiple cooking energy devices as long as collectively the stack has lower emissions and higher efficiencies. That serves the purpose. And it has to be, of course, good for climate and therefore predominantly driven by renewable energy systems. So this is what we feel is a scheme that is workable in the rural areas. Locally produced, processed biomass fuels and appropriately designed cook stoves. In some locations, solar cooking will also work. LPG, electricity, it's available wherever it is accessible, it can be used as a backup. In urban areas also, we feel that we have to start thinking about LPG, PNG, electricity as backup and start shifting towards renewable energy based cooking. Here also, organic waste is being generated in huge quantities in cities. Convert that into fuels. It can be solid fuels or it can be gaseous fuels like biogas. Solar cooking will also work in many places, and in urban areas people can even afford to buy much fancier stoves, thermal with concentrators, PV with battery backup. Now there are stoves with heat batteries. That is also a great innovation. So we have to change our mindset about urban cooking also, and in both these stacks there is room for adding more technologies. The more choices we give people, the better it will be, easier it will be for them to make the transition. So that's the holistic direction in which we have to start moving, keeping in mind that we want stores which are non-polluting, good for health, climate friendly, and user friendly. User friendliness should not be dropped out in trying to meet the other requirements. Next slide. In urban areas, to promote this idea, we started doing these cooking for climate sessions. So if any of you are in or around Pune, get in touch with me. These are great fun events where people get to themselves experience and experiment with these renewable energy based cooking energy devices, gives them a confidence that it is actually possible to cook without LPG, PNG, and grid electricity. So this is another thing which we are trying to do for urban locations. Next slide. We have an ambitious future plan that we are launching in a week or so, where this is a collaboration between three organizations: Samuchit Envirotech, Urja Box, and Chakrakar Solutions. Samuchit is primarily into biomass cooking energy devices. Urja Box is primarily into solar cooking. Chakrakar is primarily into biogas. So we are combining our all our initiatives together. Focus is on urban kitchens, and we want to create 1,000 urban kitchens which are cooking without LPG, and we hope that this will trigger a people's movement. Next slide. Through my collaboration with the Cleaner Cooking Coalition, we decided this is an organization which works in Africa, Asia, and South America. So we have decided to create local innovation hubs. One hub in Malawi has been operational for a long time. There is another hub in Mexico, and the first innovation hub in India is coming up in Pune. We are looking for volunteer researchers here. The idea here is to work with the users in the lab as well as in the field, and to do this in a technology neutral manner, in the sense that we want people at the same time to be thinking about biomass, solar, how do we combine these together and come up with innovation. That is the kind of thinking that we want to trigger here, with the focus, of course, on meeting user requirements. So this is another idea which is slowly evolving. Next slide. There is a third stack, of course, that should not be left out, and that is the cooking that happens in commercial and institutional kitchens. There actually already solar powered steam based cooking has already started making inroads. Add that with biogas from own kitchen waste, biomass pellet, briquette stoves, and it is actually possible to cook even for thousands of people without using LPG, PNG, or electricity. Think of these only as a backup. This is even more economically viable because the costs of the modern fuels is higher for these kitchens than for household kitchens. But here also, again, there is a huge room for innovation and in entrepreneurship also. So and there is this interesting possibility that hospitality sector can actually aim to go carbon neutral by using these technologies. So that is another angle to this. Next slide. Next slide. So what you are seeing here is a concept that we are promoting primarily for these commercial institutional kitchens. A DRE, decentralized renewable energy fueled food stall, which will use solar, biogas, biomass fueled devices in tandem with each other. This can even sell processed food products. It will also work as a demonstration and experience center. And this will be run by a local self-help group or a youth group. So it also becomes a green entrepreneurial opportunity and can be operated both in rural and urban areas. these concept drawings were made for us by an architect. And now we are looking for partners to actually build these systems and handhold people to get these businesses going and try and make those profitable. But as we speak, next slide. As I'm speaking here, it so happens that we are running a stall like this, and I'm really excited about this. There is a exhibition happening in Pune where we are running a food stall in collaboration with a local restaurant, where the restaurant's recipes are being cooked using our renewable energy based devices. The restaurant owner was a bit skeptical about how their workers will react to this, but the workers are loving this new process of cooking, and the visitors are also appreciating this. This exhibition has been going on since yesterday, and we are getting a very good response for this. So that really encourages me, and sort of it's a validation of our overall philosophy. Next slide. So basically, cooking can be healthy, climate friendly, and user friendly. We need out of the box thinking like the user in this photograph. The interventions must be user centric, culture sensitive, but based on renewable energy, so that we take care of health as well as climate. Next slide. I said that I'll talk a bit about cleaner cooking coalition and why we are using the word cleaner. The word clean cooking seems to have been hijacked nowadays by LPG and electricity based cooking. So we have coined this new term cleaner cooking for renewable energy based cooking. We have taken this pledge ourselves that by 2030, we will create a situation where cleaner and affordable cooking energy is available for all. And by 2050, we want the entire cooking energy sector to go carbon neutral. You can join us in these pledges. Next slide. If you visit the website of Cleaner Cooking Coalition, there is a page there where you can yourself also add your name to this pledge and join hands with us and work on this together. Do visit our websites, samuchit.com and cleanercooking.org. My email is also there, and of course, I'd be happy to answer questions in this meeting also. Once again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to interact with all of you and share my thoughts with you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was such a wonderful presentation. And especially, ma'am has invited all of us to the Cooking for Climate session, where especially my focus was on the eating part. So many of us, I think, will be visiting your
sure, great.
And also, ma'am has spoken about the local innovation hub and dairy-based food stall. It was wonderful. So thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. Already we have a lot of questions, but we'll take it up during the interactive session.
Sure.
Okay. So next, now we have today's special address by Mr. Risto Isomaki on clean cooking and public health and global warming. So Mr. Risto is the head of the grant evaluation committee of InSIC. He's a Finnish science and science fiction writer, very famous, and he's a forester and an environmental activist. His books have been published in approximately 20 different languages, and he has been involved in dozens of international cooperation projects related to agroforestry systems and renewable energy in Eastern and Southern Africa, South Asia, and Indonesia, and Mexico. He is one of the founding members and the vice chairman of InSIC. So over to you, sir.
It is a great honor to be speaking in the same webinar as Dr. Karve, but I must say I also feel a little bit crushed to be speaking straight after a word like authority on the subject, like Dr. Karve, but I'll do my best. I'm going to make only a few contributing points. What I really want to say is that providing clean or cleaner cooking energy for the 400 million poorest families in the world might be the most important thing there is in the world at the moment, because it's actually impossible to think of anything else with the possible exception of eliminating industrial size animal agriculture that might contribute as much to solving all our most important global problems than providing cleaner cooking energy for all. And my point is to explain briefly why it is like this. First, according to very often quoted estimate, traditional biomass cooking stoves are still producing roughly 1 billion tons of greenhouse gas emissions annually, not counting carbon dioxide, meaning methane, nitrous oxide, and ozone. And besides this, the biomass cooking stoves are also producing other kinds of global warming emissions, especially soot and hydrogen. Hydrogen is not a greenhouse gas, but it has two ways of heating the climate in other mechanisms. First, it's competing with methane about the atmospheric cleaning services, with about the same hydroxyl radicals, which means that hydrogen released into the atmosphere is increasing the lifespan of methane in the atmosphere and methane's global warming potential. Besides, it's creating very high cirrus-type clouds consisting of small ice crystals, and this kind of clouds have a very strong global warming impact. And soot is even more important. According to various estimates, biomass cooking stoves are producing between 25 and 40% of the humanity's soot or black carbon emissions. And soot is, according to the latest scientific assessments, it's the second most important factor heating the planet straight after carbon dioxide. According to the latest estimates, its global warming power is 1.1 watts per square meter, which is only 1/3 less than that of carbon dioxide. And besides this global warming impact, soot is also making a huge contribution to melting the mountain glaciers. And the melting of the mountain glacier is a direct threat to the dry season flows of Asia's most important rivers, including Ganga, Indus, Mekong, Brahmaputra, Huanghe, and Yangtze. The dry season water supply of billions of people is directly responsible of the flow of these waters, of these rivers. So this is also a very serious issue. And for example, in the Tibetan plateau, the soot raining on top of the snowfields and glaciers, in the springtime, it's heating the area with the efficiency of roughly 20 watts per square meter, which is approximately 10 times more than the combined heating potential of all the extra greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And of course, the biomass cooking stoves in the world, they are altogether consuming something like 3 billion tons of dry biomass every year, mostly wood, and equivalent to 1.5 billion tons of carbon. And if we can reduce this amount a little bit, then we could use a lot of biomass to other purposes, or we could reduce the pressure on forests and other vegetation so that it could absorb more carbon dioxide from the air. But especially important probably is that if we can save part of the wood and other biomass for other purposes, we could use it to produce new kinds of materials that could replace steel, other metals, concrete, oil-based fiber clothes, oil-based carbon fibers, oil-based plastics and chemicals, and the bitumen that is now used to making asphalt. Many of our greenhouse gases are relatively easy or very easy to eliminate, at least in theory, but some of them provide much more trickier challenges for us. And steel and the other metals and oil-based cloth fibers and carbon fibers and oil-based plastics and chemicals and bitumen used in asphalts, these are probably our most difficult challenges if we want to achieve a carbon neutral economy. And steel is responsible for roughly 8% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Other metals are doing about the same. Cloth fibers are producing almost 5% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Bitumen a few percent, 1 or 2, and the plastics a few percent. So altogether we are talking about a complex of very difficult issues producing more than 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions. And for all these emissions, we only have one alternative resource base, which is to replace all these materials by something which we are making from wood and other biomass. No other solutions will not be available in the near future. But of course, it's not a good idea to produce the raw materials for the modern bioeconomy by growing them in the existing forests or grasslands or peatlands, because this would produce huge carbon dioxide emissions from their soils. But if we could use some of the biomass and wood we are now burning by disseminating cleaner cooking technologies, which need lesser amounts of wood, we could then use some of this wood to produce the new materials that could replace these very carbon intensive forms of production we are now depending on. But I would still like to say that besides that, clean cooking is not only important for climate and environment, it's also one of the most important public health issues in the world at the moment. Of course, all of us know that the traditional biomass cookers are probably responsible for 5 or 6 million premature deaths in a year, perhaps 2/3 of the world's air pollution deaths. But there is another issue which have not received as much attention and which would require much more attention. And it is the fact that air pollution is also making a great contribution to the development of multi-resistant bacterial strains. For example, in Europe and United States, 3/4 of all antibiotics that are used to treat human disease are used to treat upper respiratory infections outside hospitals. And in some countries in the global south, this could be even more than 3/4. Air pollution is increasing the the problem of antibiotic resistance is in many ways because it's irritating and inflaming the membranes of our respiratory tracts, and it's therefore making us more vulnerable to all kinds of respiratory infections. We get more infections, and above all, the infections we get, they tend to become prolonged and worsened by air pollution, so that they require antibiotic treatments more often. In a way, it could be said that we are now trying to do with antibiotics things that we ought to do with improving air quality by reducing air pollution, for example, by providing cleaner cooking energy for the people, and trying to do what we ought to do by improving air quality, trying to do it with antibiotics. It's working worse and worse every year, and the problem threatens to become very bad because World Health Organization is giving very serious predictions on how many people might soon die because of antibiotic resistance if the antibiotics lose their effectiveness. And one of the issues we should really keep in mind is that nowadays 20 million people in a year get diagnosed with cancer, but one half of them, 10 million people every year, are completely cured by modern cancer treatments, and the lifetime of most of the others is much prolonged by the cancer treatments. But if we lose the antibiotics, we also lose the modern cancer treatments because they are not possible without antibiotics. So I think that this is really important for all of us, and for these reasons, I think that providing cleaner cooking energy for the world's 400 million poorest families is really the most important, or at least the second most important thing there is in the world, and that the work you are doing is really of utmost importance. And it's a great honor to be speaking in the same seminar with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Risto. Also, I will request you if you can say a few words about our InSIC grants and the 2 projects that we have supported in clean cooking.
Yeah, I didn't actually say anything about them because there are separate introductions about them, but InSIC is really providing small seed grants for innovative projects, mostly dealing with solar energy, trying to develop new solar energy innovations. And we have provided seed grants for 3 projects that have developed new kinds of cleaner or clean cooking energy devices. Ajay Sandak is speaking about one of them, and there will be later 2 other introductions about another type of thermal battery solar cooker, and about a technology package called Surya Rathuni, which is a package of micro solar dome, related solar panel and battery, and a cleaner burning biomass cooking stove equipped with a small fan which gets its power from the micro solar dome and its battery and photovoltaic panel. So I think it's better that the people who have developed these will present these things because they are more familiar with all the details than myself.
Thank you so much, Mr. Risto. So that was the special address by Mr. Risto. Now we have Dr. A. Saji Das, who is an international expert on renewable energy and biogas systems. So He will be speaking on biogas cooking systems. Now, Dr. A. Sajidas has the experience of more than 35 years in designing, execution, and the development of various waste to electricity biogas projects, renewable energy projects, biogas technology, and organic waste management, organic farming, aquaponics, sustainable agriculture development, energy conservation activities, etc. Presently, he is working as the international biogas consultant as well as the managing director of Biotech Renewable Energy with the headquarters at Thiruvananthapuram. Dr. Shajidas is a recipient of national and international awards, including ASDEN Award, which is the Green Oscar from UK, for the generation of energy through decentralized waste treatment. He is having a degree of doctorate in solid waste management. He has many important interventions or inventions to his credit relating to the development of various green energy projects. He has presented several papers in the media for the national and international seminars. Dr. A. Shajidas has been selected by the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, MNRE, Government of India, as a member of Expert Committee for New Biogas Plants Evaluation and Appraisal Committee, NBPEAC. He has specialized in designing of cost-effective biogas plants for organic waste to cooking gas, electricity generation, and auto fuel generation projects using different feed materials. In addition to the above qualities, Dr. A. Sajidas is a technical advisor in renewable energy, waste management, and energy conservation activities of different reputed companies in India and abroad. Over to you, sir. And I would request the organizers to kindly put up sir's presentation also.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I like to express my sincere thanks for giving me this opportunity. Especially thanks Dr. S.P. Gon Chowdhury for giving me this opportunity. Today's my topic is biogas cooking system. Next slide, please. As we know, the population is increasing and the discharge of organic waste also increasing. Simultaneously, the demand on other fuels also increasing. To overcome these two issues, we can produce renewable energy, I mean biogas from organic material. Next slide. Biomethanation or biogas generation from organic waste is a proven technology. With the help of tiny microbes, any organic material can be converted into fuel and organic fertilizer. Biogas is a mixture of methane and carbon dioxide. It can be used for different applications. Next slide. The common use, I mean direct use of biogas is for cooking as well as for electricity generation. It can be used as auto fuel for industrial applications as well as for charging fuel cells and many other applications. Next. When we think about the source of organic material, we can see wherever human activities are there, the organic waste is producing day by day. This can be utilized for biogas generation. Next. These are the some of different type of waste generating sources other than houses, education institutions, healthcare institutions, livestock farms, and food processing industries are producing a lot of organic waste. Next. There are different models of biogas digesters are available nowadays. Some of the popular models are floating dome digester, fixed dome, module, tube digester. Different capacities also available from 1 cubic meter to 5,000 cubic meter. Next. Biogas is a substitute for all other existing fuels like diesel, kerosene, firewood, LPG, and electricity. Through the use of 1 cubic meter biogas, minimum half kg of LPG can be saved. When we use biogas as cooking fuel for household applications, different sizes of stoves are available for houses as well as large scale institutions. Next. In the case of electricity generation, biogas can be used. The common places where we can install waste to electricity projects are public and private markets, slaughterhouses, and larger institutions where more quantity of organic waste is available. Next. For electricity generation from biogas, different types of generators are available. One is 100% biogas generator. Next one is dual fuel generator. Next. And purified biogas can be used as auto fuel. A lot of new projects are coming up in India also. Next. Another advantage of biomethanation system is the toilet linked biogas plant can be used for improving the sanitation. Through the use of toilet linked biogas plants in slum areas as well as rural areas, more energy can be produced as well as the health level can also be improved. Next. For capturing the biogas from human excrete, I mean traditional septic tanks, we have developed a prefabricated bioseptic tanks. With the use of bioseptic tanks, the emission from traditional septic tanks can completely avoid. Next. The important role of biogas project is it can support, it can improve the life conditions of a household level also. Different models of domestic biogas plants are available nowadays and the demand is increasing. Based on that, next, we have developed portable biogas digesters. Next. The main advantage of portable digesters are lightweight and easy to transport, and installation time is also very less. Very minimum space is required. Because the demand of demand of biogas plant is increasing day by day, because in the beginning it came for the farmers, those who have their own cattle. Now the scheme is common for all peoples, those who are living in urban as well as rural area. Urban area, this is a good system for their waste disposal as well as for replacing or saving LPG. In a rural area, reduction in the consumption of other fuels like firewood. In houses, kitchen leftover, solid leftover as well as organic wastewater is discharging. This can be fed into the digester. It will produce cooking gas as well as fertilizer. The fertilizer again can be used for vegetable cultivation. With this way, the whatever organic waste discharged from the houses is coming back to the kitchen in the form of fuel and food material. Next. So far, we have installed more than 32,000 household level biogas plants as well as So many waste to electricity and institutional level projects in different parts of India as well as abroad. Next. To meet the requirement of different category of peoples, we have developed different designs of portable biogas digesters. Next. These are few of our other inventions related with biogas, organic waste management to biogas projects. Next. This is anaerobic pre-digester developed for improving the efficiency of institutional biogas plants. Next. We have also developed a very compact digesters for household level application as well as for educating students. Next. These are nano biogas digesters, very compact digester. It can be used as a training material for classroom as well as next demonstration purpose, so that students can understand about the potential of biogas technology. Next. Recently, we have developed the turbo biogas digesters. 7 unique features are there. The important feature of this design is its efficiency, its capacity to provide high pressure biogas without the use of electric pump or any pressure booster system. Next. These are 17 sustainable development goals. Through the installation of through the use of biogas plants, minimum 12 goals can be achieved. Next. These are the 12 goals we can achieve through biogas, organic waste treatment, biogas plants. Next. There are a lot of job opportunities as well as business opportunities are available in organic waste to energy sector. In domestic sector, manufacturing of portable plants, sale and service and maintenance project, as well as institutional sector, also lot of opportunities are there. In commercial sector, waste to electricity project, auto fuel projects and pay and use waste treatment projects also. We can think about these different options. Next. We Biotech India is providing training and all necessary support for the installation of different sizes of biogas plants and technical support for installation of waste to electricity and sewage treatment biogas projects. And we are also providing training and license for starting manufacturing centers of portable biogas plants. We are also providing technology transfer for larger scale biogas plants installation. Next. For these activities, we received Ashton Award in 2007. Next. We are of the view that if similar decentralized waste treatment plants are installed all over the country, it would be helpful to reduce the impact of climate change and also accelerate the production of renewable energy and organic fertilizer, apart from the treatment and disposal of organic waste. Let us work together. Thank you. Next. Our office is in headquarters in Thiruvananthapuram, as well as we have two more offices in Calicut and Cochin. Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Saridas.
Sir, if you can ask your questions during the interactive session.
Okay.
That would be great. We are having the interactive session from 4 p.m. So you can keep your questions for the interactive session. It's a it's an earnest request. So thank you, sir, for your presentation. We got to learn a lot of innovations you have showcased. and I think there will be a lot of questions coming for your presentation. So next to address the webinar is Professor Ajay Chandak, who is a very well-known expert in renewable energy. He will be speaking on solar cooking systems with special emphasis on thermal battery cookers charged with solar electricity. So Dr. Chandak has a PhD in solar mechanical. He is a certified energy auditor and a chartered mechanical engineer, having 31 years of academic experience as a professor and briefly as principal at engineering institutes. He is currently involved in research and development in renewable energy and sustainability. He has received many national and international awards and is also involved in projects for Oxford University UK, Sun Buckets USA, and few others. He is a consultant to the United Nations headquarters, New York, and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, UNDP GEF project for 1 year each. He is the director on board for International Solar Energy Society, Freiburg, Germany for 2014 and 2015. He was the global advisor for Solar Cookers International USA. He has worked in governing council member for SESI, Solar Energy Society of India. He specializes in training and mentoring of entrepreneurs in renewable energy. He started the organization Prince, promoters, researchers, and innovators in new and clean energy. He has organized many workshops, hands-on training and classroom training on entrepreneurship opportunities in renewable energy. He has also developed many entrepreneurs in this domain. So over to you, sir. You can put in presentation mode, sir. That would be.
Is it in the presentation mode visible?
No, sir. It is right now not in presentation mode, sir.
Yeah. Then maybe let the organizers run from their end. I think there is something that's stuck up here.
Do you want us to present your PPT?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then this can organizers present.
Hello, everyone.
Yes.
I'm audible.
Loud and clear.
Yeah. So it's a great pleasure to talk to all of you and listen to Priyadarshini ji. We keep on crossing paths many times, but every time she amazes me with the updates that we get here. I agree with her views that we also started with a solar cooking 25 years back, but then we also realized that we can't really force people to accept what we have. So we only have to work as a solution provider, not as a supplier of some product. And then we also started diversifying into other renewable domains like biogas, wood stores, institutional systems in solar and biogas kind of stuff, and even biomass stores. But here, this is the InSIC program, and there was a small grant that we got for this particular project. So I'll stick to this particular technology that we are developing. So it is a thermal battery-based indoor cooker, which is charged with solar electricity. Next slide. So normally when you work with solar cookers, these are few problems or these are few complaints that you will normally receive from people. The solar cooking is actually known for decades. Like somebody was talking to me, the first solar cooker in India was done by some Mr. Madan Bhai Patel on the request of Gandhiji in 1930. So the history goes back even in India for almost 100 years now. But the adoption is poor, and these are the different reasons that everybody can really make out. That availability of sun and cooking time does not match. Most of the time, the cooking is much earlier than you actually get sun after 10:30 or so. And then space availability for keeping solar cookers. Not everybody has a space where they can keep their solar cookers and get a good sun. And then in the current solar cooking devices, it's an outdoor operation. So cooking outdoor is not convenient to people and making those trips to your rooftop or to your yard. Then some cookers have a limited cooking option, but new concentrating cookers can do almost anything. Now there were some systems, PCM-based cooking systems, that is phase change materials. They looked initially promising, but then we realized there are some problems of disintegration of that phase change material or salt. And in some cases, that leakage, because it has to be in a closed container, but at a high temperature, that molten salt is there. And if it leaks, it can cause burns. Next. Now, what are the current options? There are different concentrating cookers, different cookers, but I talk more about a concentrating cooker. That's my domain area. And those are the cookers which are very close to your cooking gas practice. Like they are fast, they can cook almost anything, and they can deliver high temperatures which are required even for frying kind of application. So we are using these kind of cookers for more than 20 years and replacing something like 40% of our domestic fuel. And there are few thousand installations of these systems, either through us or through our trainees who have turned manufacturers. So these are in a way very good systems, but with all those limitations of outdoor cooking, you have to track the system intermittently, and you require really a large space to get that kind of cooking power which matches with LPG. And not everybody can live with those kind of limitations. What is happening elsewhere is there is a company called Sunbucket. I also work as a consultant to them. So they have a PCM-based heat storage. So that's phase change material, and their source is solar concentrator. What can happen is the bucket on the focus that you can see is heated by a solar concentrator, and that bucket can go inside your kitchen and you actually cook inside the kitchen. And because that is a stored heat, you can also cook after sunset. That is how the system works. But the limitation remains that this concentrator being an outdoor device, you have to go out to keep the bucket for charging and take out the bucket when it is completely charged. And in between, you may need to track if the concentrator is not automatic tracking. If it is a manual tracking, you need to go and do that. In California Polytechnic, there is some research going on since almost 10 years now. They were mostly working with a photovoltaic combined with phase change material. And because they are working for a longer duration of time, now they have discovered that phase change material, after a few cycles, that salt start disintegrating. So the alternate options are now being worked up. Next slide. Now, why we are talking of a heat storage? There are some technologies where solar photovoltaic is used or solar electricity is used, but that solar electricity is used for charging batteries. So mostly lithium-ion batteries. And then that battery will deliver electricity to some kind of an induction stove, and that induction stove will finally heat the food. So the transition of energy from solar to a chemical in a battery, solar to electricity, that electricity gets into a chemical energy in a battery, that chemical energy goes back to electricity, and that runs some induction stove, finally giving heat to the food. In solar concentrating cookers, direct cooking, we directly convert solar energy into heat in the food. So those were definitely much efficient. Now, in this case, when we are using a batteries, something like a lithium-ion battery, we estimated that we need, if we use efficiently, we need around 1500 watt-hour of energy for cooking. And if you think of a real basic living, basic energy need, then cooking and lighting, both two needs, then lighting will require just something like a 50 watt-hour, where you can light some efficient LED lamps and charge your mobile. but cooking will need huge amount of energy, like 1500 watt hour kind of stuff. And that much energy, if you want to get from a battery kind of system, in Indian currency, you will need around 40 to 50,000 rupees. This kind of projects were done by Professor Solanki from IIT Bombay, and those cooker costed 85,000 rupees a piece. So that's a huge cost. Plus the hitch is those batteries will need a replacement in 3-4 years. So you have a big running cost also as a replacement of a battery. So in most cases, this kind of system, the carbon neutrality is pretty doubtful. And the cost is such a high cost that it may not be really justifiable. Very likely that people will start using batteries again for electrical use and then shift to their firewood system for cooking. Now, when you have same amount of energy stored in a thermal battery, not in the chemical battery like lithium ion, then the battery size dramatically reduces. That is one big advantage. Secondly, because it's a thermal battery, practically it's for a lifetime. So your solar panel will normally have something like 20-25 years of life, and this thermal battery also will last that long. So there is no phase change in this design. So it's just a heating cooling cycle that goes on and off, and that is where the fun lies. The equivalent thermal storage, where we are talking of a chemical batteries of 40-50,000 rupees, here the thermal storage costs around 10,000 rupees, and that will have a cost that will have a life of around 20 years, almost the life equivalent to the panels, and that is where the affordability can come in. In addition, we can charge some small chemical batteries and then use that small amount of energy for lighting and mobile charging, that kind of stuff. So one unit can be self-sufficient for really basic households where you are only using lighting, cell phone charging, and cooking. That's the energy needed. Next. So this is how the whole system is. There's an outdoor panel, and there's a charge controller that we have. And then major amount of energy flows to the thermal heat storage. This thermal heat storage itself is also a cooking device. Again, that saves the space. We don't need a separate cooking device. So my batteries are not different than the cooking device. They are integrated. And this charge controller can have small power. If it contains a small lithium-ion battery, then it can give that power to lights and mobile charging. But the major part is for the cooking, and that is through heat storage. And then same heat storage, you take out the lid and you can put the pots on the hot heat storage, and you can cook on that system. Next slide. Okay, I think the video links are not there. That is why I was trying to run it from my side. So there was a video about how the system configuration is, and another video about how it runs. I'll try if I can play that video from my side at the end of a presentation. Okay, so I think, okay. Both the videos I'll try if at the end of presentation if I can run from my side. Now what we have done, this InSIC supported us with a small grant, a seed grant we can call. And what we have done about different developments and those achievements is we demonstrated indoor cooking in comfort of kitchen is possible. So solar panel can be installed anywhere, outside, on the rooftop, in a balcony, or on a south-facing solar wall, south-facing wall, and that electricity flows in, and then you can have this cooking device or energy storage device in the comfort of kitchen on your kitchen top, and you can cook. This we could demonstrate successfully. Then stored heat, we can also we could demonstrate that heat can be stored and used for dinner. So cooking lunch is very easy. There is already some stored heat by 11 o'clock when you normally cook a lunch. And there is also live energy coming in at 11. So lunch is very fast because you have both the supplies available, stored heat as well as the live energy coming. For dinner, you are using only the stored energy. And we noticed in our trials that from 310-degree temperature, that is where the heat was stored, it dropped to 255 degrees in 5 hours. So after 4 o'clock in the evening, the further charging stopped. But at 9 o'clock, we could cook dinner when the temperature dropped to 255 degrees. We also realized that cooking lunch and dinner is easy. It can be successfully done. But cooking breakfast with the current level of technology is difficult. So it might work with some other high-tech insulation like aerogel and all. There are only few manufacturers of these kind of insulations. We are trying to get those insulations while commercializing these products. Then high utilization of solar energy because we have a thermal battery and cooking device in a one unit. So like recirculating thermic fluid or generating steam and then using steam in a cooking device, those kind of energy transformations are not there. And that is why the energy utilization is very high. The only heat releasing surface is the top surface when you open the insulated pot. But from that top surface, the heat can only go to the pot, not to the surrounding, because the hot surface is covered by the pot. And that's where the thermal efficiency also comes in. The innovation that we are introducing or working on is one innovative matrix that we have created with aluminum and concrete just to cut down on the cost, because aluminum is pretty expensive. So we are trying to get to a different matrix of aluminum and concrete that is storing the heat. Next. So where we are, I'll say we are at a technology readiness level 5, where we have demonstrated technology. There are 2 people, one is at my place and one with one of my friends. We are regularly using these units and they are working satisfactorily, but the commercialization is altogether a different ballgame. You need to do a lot of other things also. And we got a small grant funding from InSIC, and we also got 2.5 lakh from Modern Energy Cooking Services. And to go to a commercial level, TRL 8-9, with all the experiences that we have, what is needed is we need to work on some allied areas like choice of utensils, efficient designs of utensils and accessories. As Dr. Priyadarshini told, we can't enforce what we have. We have to understand how the people cook. And if they have a peculiar choice of utensils, I can't force them to use only my utensil. So those different utensils we need to accommodate in our design. That is one work we have identified and that we need to do. We need to do some cost-cutting measures, definitely, because it has to be affordable for all. So up to technology demonstration and field trials, TRL 5-6, it is fine whatever money you spend. But if you really want to sell and make it affordable, there are some measures we need to take on this. And these measures, as I said, working on aluminum concrete composite, where introduction of concrete will bring down the cost. And then some heat storage and insulation material. Some insulation material we identified a new suppliers, so we'll be getting a few things from there. We'll need some funding that can come either from grants or equity. We are talking to some investors and expecting them to put some equity into this project. And once we have that, we'll need around 6 to 9 months to really launch a product in the market. Next. So thank you. I need to give a special thanks to InSIC. They started with a seed grant and where we could really work this. And Recently, Finovista, that's a company in India which works for MECS under UK aid. They have given also award grant under this MECS program that we have used for this development. Thank you, everyone. See you in the question answer session. I'll just try to see if I can run that videos. You can discontinue my presentation. Is the video visible?
Tea boiling.
Sir, it is opened in another window. You can share the video player, I think, which is playing this video. Sir, if you have some photos also, that you can also show us.
The photo was there in a presentation.
Anyway, sir, we'll share your video in InSIC so that everyone can watch it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentations.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandak. Thank you. Now, I think there'll be some change now. Richik Ghoshtakur, he will be making a presentation. Radhuni, lighting and cooking in affordable. Dancing. So I would request he is the member of the place.
Okay, it's fine. Thank you, sir, for introducing me. And I would like to make a very presentation about a very innovative device which has been developed by the PI of a project that InSIC has supported. So I would like to share the presentation from my end. So is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So InSIC has supported a project called Surya Radhuni, which means solar cook. It gives efficient cooking and clean lighting in rural houses. So InSIC supported this project back in 2021 during the call for grants. And every year, as I told you, InSIC releases this, issues this call for grants. All the PIs can participate, interested PIs from several organizations, academia, and even individuals can also participate in this call. Every year we have a separate theme, and that year we have the theme of and this project, someone is not muted. Organizers, can you take care of that?
Climatology.
So this project was executed by the PI, Mr. Subhadip Bhattacharya and his team. And I will be, as a board member, I will be presenting the findings of this device. It's a very unique and need-based device which integrates cooking as well as clean lighting using solar. So let's see the problems due to which this innovation had to be done. So we see that still 54% of Indian households use firewood for cooking. As you can see, I have a picture on the right hand side. Traditional cook stoves, firewood based cook stoves are being used. And these traditional cook stoves, nearly 82% rural households use this kind of traditional cook stoves, which are very low efficiency biomass based firewood cook stoves, which lead to high amounts of indoor pollution. And we also find that these households which use this kind of cooking systems, they also use kerosene lamps for room lighting. And pollution is also caused due to kerosene lamps. Nearly 50 million households in rural India still use kerosene lamps. And these two polluting sources lead to the degradation of the indoor air quality, and which leads to deterioration of health and well-being of people living in these households. So what is needed? So it's very important to innovate a technology which can integrate both efficient cooking and clean lighting. And if a system can be built so that these two problems can be mitigated, then that would be a very effective solution. And the PI of the project has done a very similar thing. He has innovated this device called the Surya Radhuni. So it consists of basically 4 components. One is the improved cook stove, which is conventionally available in the market. We have this improved cook stoves, which is fuel efficient. It saves fuel costs, reduces pollution, and it has replaced, in a sort, traditional cook stoves. So this was introduced in this project. And to increase the efficiency of this improved cook stoves, the PI has developed this kind of blower fan, which is operated through solar PV. It provides artificial draft to the improved cook stove so that the efficiency of the improved cook stove can be increased. It has a controllable RPM so that the amount of air which is blown into the traditional cook stove can be controlled. So we have in control the cooking time and the efficiency as well, and the amount of firewood. So efficiency is achieved. Next, we have the lighting part, for which the PI has modified the existing micro solar dome, and he has modified it to a 12-volt variant, which can be integrated to this system. And this micro solar dome is a very popular device. It is the brainchild of Professor Gonchoudhury sir. And we have also published good articles regarding micro solar dome, its performance, and it is very effective in room lighting. It provides 8 hours of light during daytime by harvesting natural sunlight, and it provides about 15 hours of light during the night time and up to 28 hours at low brightness. And this I'm talking about the modified variant of the micro solar dome, which has been developed by the PI. It has to some extent replaced the kerosene lamps, and it has completely replaced kerosene lamps in the houses where the pilot installations have been done. So PI has installed these kinds of system in 10 households in Sundarbans area. I'll talk about that. And this entire thing, this blower fan and the micro solar dome, the power comes from this charge controller, and this charge controller has a battery, inbuilt battery, and an NPT based solar charge controlling system, and it gets charged from a 20 watt peak solar polycrystalline solar module. It also has the provision of mobile charging through USB and provision of extra ports where the user or the beneficiary can plug in their own equipment, suppose extra lights, extra fan, that also they can use through this system. So what are the important points? And these are the beneficiaries. One thing which I should mention, that it is very easy to use, maintain and repair. So beneficiaries can themselves maintain and repair the systems, as if the battery, which is one of the main components of the system, if the battery fails at some point, then the beneficiaries can themselves purchase the battery and replace that in the system. So this is the unit that the PI has developed, and the pilot installations was done in Sundarbans area. Sundarban, as we know, is the largest delta, and this project site was chosen at Sundarbans, where VIB, Vivekananda Institute of Biotechnology, NIMPIT, was the partner and the collaborator in this project with the PI. And about 68 beneficiaries from 10 households who belong from the economically weaker section of the community were benefited under this project. A little about the beneficiaries, their monthly income is less than 6,000. So a large amount of their income goes into cooking expenses. And the PI has found out that monthly expenditure for lighting and cooking was around 600 rupees. So after the PI installed the Solar Radhani system in their households, the amount of the 600 rupee cost was reduced to 175 rupees. So this was, I think, a big achievement on the PI's part. Additionally, annual average CO2 emissions, which was to the tune of 6 tons per household, also was substantially reduced due to Surya Radhani because of the higher efficiency in cooking and due to clean lighting through the microsolar domes. So as I told you, these are the pictures of installation at the project site. You can see microsolar domes being installed, and the Solar Radhani is being operated by the beneficiaries. The 20-watt peak solar panels have been installed in the rooftop, and the PI has and the team has trained about, I think, 8 installers on how to maintain and operate this system, and they can also start entrepreneurial business if they want. This training were done by the PI team. So on-site performance testing was also done, and some data was collected, which I'm going to show you in the next slide. A very good technical manual in local language was also developed. We have shared that also. So I'll show it to you. This is the performance evaluation, where we see that substantial amounts of CO2 and black carbon emissions were reduced due to the Surya Radhani. Interestingly, Solar Radhani was standardized and commercialized immediately after development through R&D Solar, which is who is an entrepreneur established in this field of solar technologies. And the beneficiaries reported that they have reduced fuel costs, their cooking time has reduced, and the indoor pollution they can feel that it has also reduced. Overall per household income was also increased. Why? Because they are getting the light from the microsolar dome. That light they can now use for doing their income generation activities. Students can even study more from the light of the microsolar dome. And of course, firewood is being used, less amounts of firewood is being used. So these are the kind of benefits. We have more benefits, but I think we have less time, so I'll just skip this over. Now we see that what is the way forward. So as I told you, the PI's team has collaborated with R&D Solar Entrepreneur to commercialize the final product. The product has been commercialized, TRL 9 has been reached, and the product is now available in the market for purchase. This is how the entire kit looks like. You can see in the picture. And the entrepreneur R&D Solar has also set up this manufacturing unit dedicated to manufacture the Solar Radhani. Till date, we have received the huge demand actually for the Solar Radhani, especially the entrepreneur has received a lot of calls, a lot of demand is there in rural areas that they want this kind of Solar Radhani systems in their own areas, not only in West Bengal, but in other states also. And R&D Solar, as I told you, have received 50 plus orders for this device. Many more entrepreneurs, we came to know that they're interested in manufacturing the product. Also, we have communicated with the PI that future work can also be done to increase the product's efficiency, and he can also think of transitioning to cleaner fuels. The PI has already started working on the Gen 2 model, which incorporates use of high efficiency batteries, lithium ferrophosphate batteries, and an efficient charging system. And a larger system is also developed by the PI's team, is being developed for mobile food vendors. So this will also be a good innovation. So this is all about the Surya Radhani product. I hope more demands come up, as it is a very effective and need-based product. Thank you. So now I would request, let's move on to the next presentation. So I would request, we have Dr. Daipayan Sen with us. So yeah, he'll be speaking on thermal battery cooker with direct sunlight. And a little bit about Mr. Sen, Dr. Sen. He did his bachelor in engineering, a master's in chemical engineering, and PhD from Jadavpur University. He has worked in industry, Consolidated Fibers and Chemicals Limited, Haldia in 2004, and Wipro Technologies from 2006 to 2007. He has also worked in NIT Agartala as an assistant professor, Department of Chemical Engineering, and Department of Chemical Engineering at NIT Agartala, Tripura from 2012 to 2015. He is presently working as the assistant professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering at Heritage Institute of Technology, Kolkata since 2015. So over to you, sir. I think your presentation is with us, and I would like the organizers if you can share the presentation of Dr. Sen.
Thank you, Rijik. Am I audible?
Loud and clear, yes. Can we put up the presentation for Dr. Sen? Dr. Sen, I request 1-2 minutes. Can you hear us, Dr. Sen? I think Dr. Sen. Dr. Sen has been disconnected. We'll try to reach him.
He's not there?
He's not there. I'm calling him right now, sir. I think he has been disconnected.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I got a problem in my connection actually.
No problem, sir. Please proceed.
Yeah.
We have put up your this presentation.
Yeah. I can see that. Thank you, Richard, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, NBIT, as well as InSIC, for giving me this opportunity to deliver my presentation over here. My topic is thermal battery cooking with direct sunlight, and means we got this project actually, which is basically we need to develop a thermal battery which can actually collect the energy from solar, and this thermal battery can be used for cooking purpose. Means once we are just collecting it from outside and just going inside, and we can do the cooking inside. The main idea is that has already been told by several speakers before me, that the main issues with the current scenario is that in rural India as well as in the urban area also, that whatever the cooking medium that we are going to use, so that is something very that is problematic for the health as well as for the environment. Mainly the rural area people, they are using the indoor cooking stove, basically depending on the biomass. And that is something which is the biggest issue, because the thing is that once it is being burnt, so it's releasing the smoke, which is very much unhealthy, as well as it creates a lot of internal diseases. To just come out of this particular process, so there is a need for the renewable energy sources, like any cooking devices, which can be a cleaner cooking device and which can be used without creating any hazards to the health as well as to the environment. So for that, we have just identified our customers. The customers are basically from the rural as well as the urban sectors also, and especially the people. So can you just next slide, please? Next slide. Okay, fine. So yeah, next slide. Yeah. So we have identified the consumers, those who are basically from the rural as well as the urban sectors, and the rural consumers are mainly means whatever the sophisticated units that are being used, like means for any renewable sources energy. So the rural consumers, as their average income is mostly in, just nearby the in West Bengal, or in the rural sector, the utmost rural sector, as they are just going with a very low average income sectors. So that is why they are mainly depending on the stoves, which are basically using fires from woods and all those things. So they are having some issues with their health because of the inhalation of the smoke. So basically, we are trying to design a solar stove, which is on the which is basically depending on the some material which can be there and can store the energy, thermal energy, after receiving the energy from the sun, and which can take from outside to indoor for cooking purposes. Next slide. So for the solar cookers that we have in the market, we all know that solar box cooker, solar panel cooker, solar parabolic cooker, and they are depending on the next slide. They are depending on the focal length adjustment, and especially whenever the means they are much depending, means how much energy is going to be received by the solar cooking device. They are mostly depending on the irradiance level, and we should need some kind of tracker device, automated tracker device, so that the utmost energy storage can be done over there. Next slide. So this is something which is basically, as I told before, that this about the lower income, means there are low income people over there in India, and especially in the rural sector, those who are depending on the stoves that are basically using the woody biomass and creating smoke and inhalation issues are there. So looking at that, we are trying to devise low cost device, portable device, which can actually means after storing the energy in the within that particular device, we can just take it into the indoor kitchen, and we can just cook it over there. So that is the main idea behind that. Next slide. So these are the present peer teams that means present companies, those who are launching this particular devices. Like recently, Indian Oil Corporation, they have launched Surya Notun, which is basically PV based, and they are basically storing the energy, electrical energy, into a battery, thermal battery, and using that particular energy for cooking purposes, and some parabolic solar cooker and all those things. So next slide. So the main challenge during the execution of the project, we got this project in December actually. So the main challenge is that we are using PCM, but as Professor Chandak has told that the molten salt is having some issues because they are having the leakage problem, and they are having a disintegration issue. So obviously we have started with the molten salt, but the thing is that the main issue is that whenever we have to collect the sun energy, and if you're not devising any automated solar tracker, because that will just impart an extra cost to the device. So how can we design effectively the entire solar cooking device so that it can retain the energy at any level of irradiance level, which is nearly around 760 or 800 in that range. So this is something which is the schematic cross-sectional view of the solar cooking device, which we have used. The circular portion at the top is the solar top panel, and we have a pyramidal structure enclosure in which we have the fins. So I'll just show you the three-dimensional figure of this. So just go to the next slide. So this is the this is actually the looks of that particular device that we are working with. So we have a pyramidal shape structure of the enclosure, and we have some 8 fins over there with a proper dimensioning. And initially what we had done some simulation console using that SCFD software console, just to understand that if I'm just going to put my material inside that, so how the energy transfer is going to be there. So based on that, we have 2 possibilities. One is the charging, that initially whenever it is receiving the energy, and how this particular energy variation, energy distribution can take place within the enclosure. That is one of the issue. And the second issue is that, which is basically the discharging. That means whenever we are just having a cooking instance and we are just putting it on the top of the enclosure on that particular device, how it is going to be receiving that particular energy and how long it is going to be receiving that particular energy. Next slide, please. So this is basically the discharging scenario, that when we have that particular energy receiving section is going to be considered. And this is the simulation one, but we are just trying with the actual one. We have taken a benchtop scale study also, and we have understood that how long it is going to be, how long it will take to just have this particular energy release scenario. Because the thing is that unless and until we have an ample amount of time to have this energy received at the top portion of the section, so obviously we are not going to be able to cook. Next slide. So the solar receiver that we are going to use over here, we are means that is in our concept, that is the secondary reflector should be there. So the primary reflector, that is the bottom parabolic reflector that we have. So the solar energy is going to be reflected, solar ray is going to be reflected from there. And the secondary reflector, which is again a parabolic reflector, but inverted parabolic reflector will be, it is the inverted parabolic reflector, and is going to receive the ray, which is at the focal length of the primary reflector, and is going to receive the ray. And after that, the solar, the device, the top plate of the solar device is going to be kept at the bottom at the focal length of the secondary reflector, which is going to receive the energy, receive the ray as well as the energy from that after reflection from the secondary reflector. So we should have an aperture at the bottom of the primary reflector through which that particular ray is going to be carried and received on the top plate. Next slide. This is something which is the mechanical part design, and also we have some design of the PCM material. Means we are basically depending on the PCM, and as I told that we have taken up first solar salt, which is basically the potassium sodium nitrate mixture. So it's a salt mixture. So we are just taking up this, but we have some addition in this. So what we have done actually, because the thermal conductivity of this particular mixture is very, very low, so we need to increase the thermal conductivity in order to just reduce the charging process. So in that case, we have added some amount of the graphite, which is basically below 60 mesh, the size of that particular graphite particle that we have added over here. And we have added this particular graphite to increase the thermal conductivity. And we have seen in actual cases also, even in the bench top, whenever we are just going with the sample, that means it's around 500 grams of sample that we have taken up. And with that particular 500 grams of the sample, graphite and the solar salt mixture, so that is taking a quick time to just get it, to just gain the energy. So initially we have started with the electrical thermal energy supplied by the electrical energy. That means we are just putting it on a bench, on a heater, and we have just tried it. And after that, we have just used the solar irradiance level at around in the noon, means in and around at 12 o'clock in the morning. And we have understood that how much thermal energy can be collected over there and how much distribution will be there inside the material. And after that, we have used sand also after this. So the thing is that why we have just go for the sand, because it will just, because we are always skeptical to use total solar salt, because we may have the we have the intuition that the salt is something which is basically creating some corrosion inside the material of the inside the bucket material. So obviously we need to reduce that, and as well as we need to just of the energy within the material within the box. Particular intuition, we have just used sand over there. We have just mixed the sand with that particular graphite as well as the molten salt with that particular solar salt, and we have studied our thing. Next slide. So this is basically the composition that we have used. So initially we have tried out with the 1:1 molar ratio of the sodium and potassium nitrate. After that, we have used some around 0.3% of the graphite and by weight. And after that, we have added some 47 point, most of them is almost same as the solar salt sand. And we have seen that average discharging time is something 60% increase in the discharging time in the 60% for B from A, and 12% increase for C from B, and 80% increase for A. So it is a discharging time. But if I'm just going with a large scale, so obviously the discharging time is something around, we want to keep it because we have not made any kind of insulation over there. So that is why the high level of discharging time, that 60% increase over there, is something which is being there. We just want to understand that how much distribution can be possible with this particular. So the same level of figure that we can see in case of the charging also. That means whenever we are just going to receive the energy, and the distribution will be made inside the box. Next slide. So this is a very, that is the same image that we have taken up just to understand the chemistry behind that part, that whenever we are just adding up the graphite in the salt with the salt, and we are trying to understand that why the distribution is picking up even at the time of discharging as well as even at the time of charging. Next slide. So this is something what we have tested with the benchtop module. We have collected PAF from our industry partner, that is Gitanjali Solar, and we are thankful to them for that. So it's a PAF insulation that we have taken up, and we want to understand that what is the temperature decrease rate over there. So one is with the insulation and one is without the insulation. So somehow we have been able to reduce the discharge rate, the temperature decrease rate with the insulation. But the insulation is not being done properly over there, and as it is a PAF one, so obviously we will be having some kind of disintegration in the PAF material also. So we are having in trouble with the maintaining of the temperature at the final stage. So this is, and without insulation, we can easily see from the data that the temperature decrease rate is picking up every time, and we have a very fast decrease in the temperatures. We cannot retain the exact temperature over there. Next slide. So the same thing that I have shown over here, that is the temperature maintained with the time. As it is only 500 gram, it's not 500 gram even, it's more less than that. It's around 300 to 500 gram, in that range we have taken up the samples. And this is something, and the insulation, the PAF insulation we have used, which is not appropriate so far that we have found over here. So that is why the temperature decrease level is so fast. The insulation is not proper, and the test modules, but still there is some decrease in the temperature. There is some decrease in the rate of the temperature decrease. Next slide. So as I told, the PAF may not be an option. So we are just thinking of some different option, like the ceramic wool insulation might be. Glass wool sheet also a secondary option that we can think of. The second thing is that we are also thinking of the double reflector scenario. That means we have the inverted parabolic reflector as well as the main reflector, primary reflector. So we may have a shading effect over there. So we are just working on that also. And as well as we are also thinking of if we can just attach a thermoelectric generator over there, which can actually receiving the energy after the material is being heated up. And this is going to give us this is going to deliver the electricity, and this particular electricity, if they can heat up the material again, so we can have the recyclability. So this is a very nascent idea, and we are just working on that. We are not pretty sure that whether this is just going to work or not. So that is why we are just working on that. When we are having the recyclability, we are just thinking of the recyclability of the energy also. And we are just on a designing stage right now. So we are just trying to develop it. So hopefully we can have that particular scenario to be developed in few coming days, in the next 4 or 6 months, and we can just go for a pilot scale. We can just have a small scale run for that, and after that can go for the pilot scale run, so that the cooking device can be implemented efficiently afterwards, with some different with some more modifications commercially also. Next slide. So we are acknowledging InSIC, NBIT, Professor Shulagna Chatterjee, who is also the co-PI to this project, Shubhrata Mukherjee, co-PI, the staff and faculty members of the Department of Chemical Engineering, Gitanjali Solar, as well as the team who are working on this particular project. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. So I'd like to stop with my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sen. I sincerely hope that your final product, you can develop the final product as soon as possible. We are very hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, before moving on to the interactive session, we have another invited guest with us. We have Dr. Lal Singh, who is the director of HRG, Himalayan Research Group, and it is a course of good group of TST. And we have invited him so that he can share some of his findings in biogas cooking. Sir, if you are present, please turn on your video, sir. If you can kindly share some of your experiences, I would be really glad. Okay, sir.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. And good afternoon to Dr. Chaudhary, Mr. Isto in Finland. And thank you for this opportunity. And I don't have anything in a structured presentation today because I'm traveling to Northeast. I'm this time in Manipur. And thanks for inviting me. And the only thing I would like to flag here that we are working under Core DST Sport for developing biogas digester and biogas unit for high altitude area, basically in mountains, where temperature normally is very low, between around 15 to 20 degrees centigrade, particularly of the water, and atmospheric temperature also is not anyway above than around 27-28 degrees centigrade during the daytime, but during night time again it falls to somewhere around 20 degree or so. And in that situation, we have lot of dung and biomass available, and cooking, water heating, space heating, as I have explained time and again, is done collectively by a fireplace. And with the pace of time, somehow fireplace has been reduced with some smokeless kind of chullas, and which are new interventions, and people have been using them to reduce the usage of fuel wood. And but in most of the mountain households, because of the low cold temperature, we are not able to finally forego with such kind of utilization of the traditional ways. And that put a lot of pressure on women and also emit very high level of indoor and outdoor emission, which is contributing to the public health problem as well as to the environmental problems, and also degradation of forest because of large extraction of biomass. And we have developed a biogas unit of a PVC tank of 1 cubic meter, and last year we were able to produce gas up to 15 degrees centigrade with some consortia of microorganisms here. And because, as I mentioned to Dr. Chaudhary, that my group and myself have been introduced to energy by you, sir, only. Here we would like your support or your expertise and the expert in this meeting, like from the Biotech Private India Limited, who has installed so many biogas units across India. Can they link with us also for demonstrating some unit that which works in high altitude area, not in a alpine zone, but somewhere between up to 2000 meter or around 2500 meter altitude. And there we have a aim that if we are not able to produce gas for 12 months, but at least if we are able to produce it for 6 to 7 months also, that will be a big contribution. And at least every household on average we have found that will save around 3 to 5 LPG cylinders, which are at a very high cost. And in mountains also they invest one day for waiting of the truck to come on a roadside, and they take it on a head loading to the up in the mountain to their respective household and respective villages. In this situation, this time I have only this request that Dr. Gon Chaudhary sir, please help us, and Restore in Finland, please look for some solution that because Finland do have similar cold conditions there, how we can have biomethanation in a low temperature kind of digester which can meet with the requirement of household, if not for 12 months, but at least 6-7 months in a year's time. Thank you very much, and thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
From my side.
Thank you, Dr. Lal Singh. Thank you very much. Dr. Sajidas, I'll be in touch with you, and Dr. Sajidas will contact you definitely. Dr. Lal Singh, I will organize that.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. We will provide all necessary support. We are happy to provide. Okay. Sir.
Okay. Thank you.
So nice of you. Thank you very much. I take leave this time. I have to leave now because there are the vehicles standing outside. I was just waiting for this. So nice of you. Thank you very much. So nice of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Richie, carry on.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So, Professor Chandak requested that I take up his questions. So, sir, I have 2 questions for you. So, first is by Mr. Sanjeev Jain, who is asking. Okay.
Richie, Anupam Baral was asking you some question. He was asking some question to Sajidas.
Yes. But first, Professor Chandak has to go for a meeting at 5 o'clock. So he requested that his questions be addressed first. So kindly, so I'll take up his questions. So first question is by Mr. Sanjeev Jain, who is asking, dear Chandak ji, cooking is most potential sector to achieve net zero status in India. Solar with thermal storage can make revolution in this sector. We can have demonstration pilot project of your product in Chhattisgarh. So how do you want to
I am connected with Sanjeev ji, not an issue.
Sir, good afternoon.
And I believe this definitely has a huge potential because people also want to have a convenience of LPG. So something which is sitting on your kitchen top and that works very similar to LPG. That is what many people are looking at. It's definitely cleaner, much cleaner even than LPG because zero emission. But they want something of that kind, like the concentrating solar cookers that we have been working for so many years. They are really a wonderful devices. But going out in sun, keeping it in a sunny place, and you can't cook dinner, those are the limitations that people have to live with. Now, with something like this, when you have a thermal battery where you can cook at least lunch and dinner both, can really make wonders. So I'm of the same opinion. But I figured out that there are some minor issues when we start using it, about using different utensils. People want boiling, tadka, roti, everything to be done on those devices. So we have to make those small adjustments before we actually do a commercial launch. The IOCL cooker is very similar in that way, but I think they are still figuring out those small issues before selling them in the market. So even if there are some videos, they are still not selling. So those things we are supposed to figure out before the commercial thing rolls out. But pilots for evaluating the customer preference and response, we can always do. Pilots, we are already ready with those. The commercial thing should roll out once those minor things are taken care of.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir, another question is there. So RS Kiran is asking any good reference books for introducing in solar thermal. Are there any good reference books? I think that is what this person is asking.
In general, I'll say there is a one really good resource on internet, powerfromthesun.net. One word, powerfromthesun.net. It's a wonderful book. I really like this book. They update it very frequently. Every 3-4 months, they keep on adding information. They have few what you can call ready-to-use softwares. They have few apps on the book, and it covers all spectrum, not only solar, PV, thermal, almost everything about solar energy. That is one resource I like. If there is anything which is peculiarly required, then I can suggest some other reference. But general reference, and this is a very good resource that is available.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I hope that is noted by the asker, RS Kiran. I think you have noted that response. I think, sir, that will be all. We have some other questions also. I'll mail it to you. You can respond and we'll convey it to whoever asked that questions.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining this.
Richard, I have one question.
Yeah, please.
You have a question for Dr. Chandak? Mr. Boral, do you have any question for Dr. Chandak?
I want to question Dr. Saji actually.
Okay, okay, I have noted that. Okay. Professor Chandak has a meeting at 5. Okay, sir. Thank you.
So Dr. Chandak, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so Boral, I think you can ask your question to Dr. Sajidas.
Dr. Sajidas, I have one question to you. Actually, some of our in our region, some customer wants to purchase some small type of biomass biogas plant. Actually, small type of that is say 1 cubic meter or 2 cubic meters like that for domestic uses. So, what is the price of this 1 cubic meter or 2 cubic meter this biogas plants actually?
Sir, I will share with you my email address. Please give me your contact details. I will forward you the detailed price list of different sizes so that appropriate one you can select.
Where is it available actually? Is it available in our Eastern India?
Yes, it is available. Different capacities from 1 cubic meter to any higher capacity it is available.
So what we will do, we will share the email address of Dr. Sajidas with Mr. Anupam Baral. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
So Sanjeev Jain has another question. I think after that, I have some questions from the audience. I would like to ask the speakers. We'll take up the question from Mr. Sanjeev Jain.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sanjeev Jain from the Chhattisgarh State Nodal Agency of Minari, and we are installing biogas plant in the rural areas under the Swachh Bharat mission. And we are at present installing the conventional biogas plant, Deen Bandhu model or KPIC model. Because looking into the target, this portable model or FRP model can be, I think it would be cheaper than that conventional model. So in large scales, can we get this type of model available from your side? And is it approved by the MNRE or Swachh Bharat Mission for the installation under their scheme?
Sir, our portable biogas plants are already approved by MNRE. So
Right.
any quantity depends upon your requirement, we can supply it.
Okay, okay. So please share the detail. We can have
Sure,
a
sure.
installation in the Chhattisgarh state because all the
Yes.
installation is being done under the SBM.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Saji Das can share the mail ID in the chat box,
Sure,
and
sure.
from there everybody can take that mail ID. Thank you. And I would like to ask questions as per the order of speakers we had. So I think that will be feasible. So first question is to Priyadarshini ma'am, and from Ananya Singh from Vishwa Bharati University. And she is asking that, good afternoon, ma'am. Thank you for the insight. It is truly informative. You had talked about a shift towards electricity-based cooking. So my question is how reliable it will be, especially in rural areas, as we know that rural part of our country still lacks electricity facilities. I think because she's asking that it is erratic over there.
Yeah, and in fact, I totally agree with her. I was pointing out that that is what everybody is saying, but I don't subscribe to that viewpoint. And then I went on to describe what other alternatives are there. But unfortunately, people with, I mean, without even stepping into rural areas, make these big announcements and loose statements that everybody ultimately is going to cook on electricity anyway. So why bother to fund any other type of technology? So that is exactly the wrong viewpoint that is being projected, which we all should get together and put up data which shows that it is wrong.
Okay, so hope that answers her question. Next is a question from Sneha Banerjee. She says that you just mentioned that students can apply in your upcoming research activities. Ma'am, if you could tell us how is that we can apply for it?
Okay, so I think this is related to the innovation hub that I was talking about. It is still in a very nascent stage. In Pune, we are already giving internships, but unfortunately, we don't have any funding to support interns. So mostly it is local students who are working with us at this point in time. And based on your interest and based on what we are doing at that point in time, we always have some interns, student interns working with us. Nowadays, with internet connectivity and all, if you have any specific idea in mind and are working or associated with a college or educational institute where you can get some laboratory support, we would be happy to mentor such students also, because India being such a vast country, we need these type of innovation hubs across the country. So we have just made one beginning in one corner. Everywhere these things can happen through local initiatives, and I'm very happy to share whatever information, knowledge, learnings I have had so far.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope that answers the questions. Next, there is a question for Mr. Risto from Shaligram Soni. So the question is, why are solar cookers and concentrators and also dryers are very clean but are not so popular? I think this is what the question means. So if Mr. Risto is there, I think if you can answer.
Oh. Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Yes.
I cannot get the video started for some reason. But I don't know why the picture doesn't come. But actually, both Ajay Chandak and Faipayan Sen answered this question already, because there are two main issues. The concentrating solar cookers, they only produce cooking energy when the sun is shining, and most people like to cook in the evening or early morning when the sun is not shining. So they are not providing the cooking energy when you most need it. And even in daytime, because there are two main issues. But the sometimes for cultural reasons, concentrating solar cookers because it's very hot to cook outside in the sun where you can use the solar cooker. So those are the two main reasons why we have been thinking in InSIC that these thermal battery solar cookers will be a very important part of the future of the clean cooking energy or cleaner cooking energy. But I definitely agree with many of the other speakers that also biogas cookers and biomass cookers, which will burn wood and other biomass with smaller soot and small particle emissions, they will be very important part of the cooking energy system for several decades in the future, perhaps even longer. And I think it's I 100% agree with the notion that it has been a very, very serious mistake to think that these are going to disappear very soon. They are not going to disappear very soon. We have to make them cleaner burning.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Isto. So now I think we'll move on to the next question. So next question is to Dr. Saji Das, and this is by Dr. Srinivasan Balachandran. He happens to be also my PhD guide at Vishwabharati. So he is asking you a question, sir, that he's saying, excellent presentation, sir. My query is what to do with the bioslurry, as it is mostly liquid. Transportation is a big problem, and lots of ammonia emission is also a big problem. Groundwater pollution by bioslurry due to the leaching into groundwater. So if you could please enlighten us, sir, about this.
See, regarding the utilization of bioslurry, it's a very good soil conditioner and organic liquid fertilizer. Straight away we can use for vegetable cultivation or for any crops. There is no chance for leachate. In our institutional biogas plants also, there is a slurry loop system. The treated slurry is again using for next day operation of the plant. So there is no water contamination chances are there. And household level, the beneficiaries are using the slurry for vegetable cultivation.
Okay, sir. Sir, did it answer your question? Okay, then we'll move on to the next question. This is by Ashish Kanse. How much installation cost of domestic biogas plant? I think this is a very general question.
Yes, yes. It depends upon the size of plant. When we fix the size of plant, first we have to consider the quantity of waste available each day. We can say the basic size around within 30,000, we can install a household level portable biogas plant with 1 or 2 kg of organic waste. But a standard one is 1.5 cubic meter. It costs around 40,000 rupees. It will produce minimum 2 hours cooking gas every day from the kitchen leftover of 5 to 6 member family. Minimum 50% LPG they can save through the installation of this 1.5 cubic meter biogas plant.
Okay. And Dr. Sajidas has also given his mail ID in the chat box, I think. So you can contact him. Sorry, you were saying something.
Different sizes are available. Depends upon their actual requirement. We can recommend appropriate design. And whatever expense is their main advantage is within 3 years they can recover the entire amount in the form of fuel and fertilizer. That is the main beauty of these portable biogas plants.
Okay, sir. The next question is from Rai Thor from Vishwabharati. She's asking regarding the toilet-based biogas systems, what are the basic challenges? Is it applicable in urban households?
Yes, many urban peoples are also installing toilet-linked biogas plants because in some urban areas the water table is very high, so they cannot construct traditional septic tanks. Instead of that, they are constructing toilet-linked biogas plant. There are two inlets available with the toilet-linked biogas plant. One they can use for feeding kitchen leftover. Another straight away connect to the toilet line, so that it will produce maximum biogas, and they can avoid the construction of traditional septic tank. Only a soap it is enough in this case.
Okay, I hope that answers the question. We have also more questions, but I would like to mail you these questions. So because we have very little time and we are already late. So I'll mail you the questions, and if you, when you find convenient time, you can respond to the.
Sure.
Okay. So next, there is a question for. Okay, there's a question for Dr. Sen. Is there, from Manoj Jain, is there any cooker developed based on thermal fluids which can be used indoor for cooking? Dr. Sen, if you are there.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So, so far, means indoor cooking solar plant, I have heard about a device where the steam has been used to just means there is a fluid, thermal fluid. I've just gone through a literature during whenever I was just doing the survey for this particular project. So at that time I saw literature which I can send you even afterwards also, where they are using the parabolic trough just to heat up the fluid, thermal fluid, and there just the cooker is being set inside the room, and that particular thermal fluid is used to just deliver the energy to the solar device. But if you say that it's we can just disintegrate the device from the receiving means from the receiving end, and we are just going to use that thermal fluid as a storing energy. I have not seen such kind of things, and as well as that the thermal fluid can store the energy, but the thing is that the retention of the energy, how we can just manage it, that particular energy in the thermal fluid, that is one of the foremost question. So far I have not seen that kind of thing, that where that we have a disintegrated system that when thermal fluid can be used to just supply the energy to the cooking device indoor.
Okay. So Mr. Jain was also inquiring about the Surya Radhuni. So Mr. Jain, I would like to tell you that I would give you the contact number of the entrepreneur as well as the PI. So you can directly contact him regarding the Surya Radhuni. That would be appropriate. So we have even more questions, and again I would mail them to the respective speakers so that they can answer. So I would like to move on to our concluding remarks section, where I would like to invite our chairperson, Mr. Marku Takokorpi of InSIC. He's the chairperson of InSIC and the editorial team member of the newsletter. He is also the grant evaluation committee member. He has about 30 years of research and development work at Nokia Corporation. He has a few years of renewable energy consulting, entrepreneurship, and solar energy advisor in Uttarapu Limited since 2013. So, sir, I would request you to kindly deliver the concluding remarks for this webinar.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It has been a pleasure to follow this webinar, because as we have seen in this discussion, the cleaner cooking is a very important issue, and it has many aspects to enhance people's lives and also to reduce the impact to environment. I was initially thinking of discussing this understanding of existing cooking practices as an important issue when developing this kind of solutions, but it was dealt very well by Dr. Karve and also Dr. Chandak. So I don't have to go back into that. So there was only one issue that pre-cooking is helping with that was not mentioned, and that is the issue of biodiversity loss, which is not valid everywhere, but especially in many parts of Africa, it is the collection of firewood and other materials for cooking is causing biodiversity loss, and that is the second major problem humankind is dealing with. So, otherwise, as I said, I have been very happy with the contents of the webinar, and I'm happy to follow it. And I have to thank all the speakers of the webinar, and also the organizers, of course, Richik and the other people behind the technical issues. So with that, I think, I mean, I'm concluding this webinar and hoping that these ideas that has been presented here will gain more traction in various parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And now I think we can close this webinar. We had a wonderful session, I think. Professor, if you would like to say a few words.
No, I think it was wonderful. It was very effective, and we all enjoyed. We learned a lot of things. It was very interactive also. So thank you all the participants, the speakers. They have responded to our request, and InSIC will continue to organize such type of webinar in future also on very important topics. So with these few words, officially I say this is the end of the webinar. Thank you very much once again to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chaudhary Saab, and thank you, Rense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to all the viewers, we have the feedback form for certificates. I think I'll ask the organizers to put it up in the chat box, so you can follow that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Thank you, sir.
Thank you once again. Bye.
Recording stopped.